Doing something for the first time is wild. And when you think of the outdoors, it's inherently wild. I think the most important thing for me is sharing an activity, sharing what I love with people that have not experienced that or have some kind of barrier related to it. The magic of being able to create that bond, that connection with an activity, a person, a place, that's special. Well, welcome in to another episode of Sincerely Yours Outdoors. It's a beautiful day outside. How are we feeling today?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah?
Weather's great. We're in Pittsburgh. It's Swift Mania also right now.
Yes, Swiftsburg.
Yeah, Swiftsburg, yeah. Hoping not to get pulled into that. And yeah, I can't complain. Things are great. How are you feeling, Erica?
Feel good, a little jet lagged, but all around, beautiful day in Pittsburgh. Good breeze, not too humid, feels amazing. Hanging out with you guys.
Yeah.
Pretty awesome.
It's been a good run. No pun intended. Or maybe pun intended. So before introducing, I guess we should talk about how we first met. And we were just kind of just
Yeah.
talking about that.
Yeah.
Which would give like a good segue into you introducing yourself as all you want to as well.
Okay.
So, of course, here with Erica Strasser, we first met, and this is going to be a very long story, so I'm going to try and summarize as quickly as I possibly can. So, in 2018, 2019, one of those 2 years, approximately, I was leading a youth running program at that point in time.
Oh,
Volunteer
can I tell
led.
you? I know exactly when it was.
Okay, tell.
It was at the end of January in 2019, and it was on a Friday night.
You're probably right
Yes.
with all of those things.
Yeah, yeah.
So we'll say Friday night, January 2019. I was leading a youth running program, all volunteer led, and we had volunteer coaches. And prior to that class, April, shout out April, shout out Kevin as well, the team at Mecca.
Shout out.
I was chatting with April and I was like, hey, I really want to do this really fun class with the volunteer coaches as like a community building activity for us to move and run together. And April was like, I know the perfect person for you. And I was like, okay, great. Let me know who that person is. And she was like, Erica is the coach for this. And I was like, awesome. So, of course, Friday night, January 2019, we take your class. And I remember, and I was just thinking about this, I was telling you.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about this on my car ride yesterday. And I was like, okay, Erica's awesome. We're like 2 minutes in, 3 minutes in, and you play Beyonce. And I was like, confirmation. Erica is the coach for me. And thank you, April, for not leading me astray.
Yeah.
And for being the steward of this relationship now that we have now.
Yeah.
Like going on 4 years, a little over 4 years.
A little over four and a half.
Working and moving in the same space, influencing, running, and being stewards of the work. So that is like the backstory of how we met.
Mm-hmm.
So Erica, you do like so much. Running, moving, influencing, being an ambassador across like so many different spectrums as well. But creating time for you to introduce yourself as well, how you would like to be seen as well. So we'll create a space for you now.
That was great.
Yeah.
Well, I do those things. Running has been a thing of mine since high school. I'm a Pilates teacher. That's been a thing since 2007, and it's awesome. Yoga is a big passion of mine. I'm a mom, 2 kids. My daughter's turning 13. My son's turning 9 in like 3 weeks, which is pretty awesome. I am a mental health therapist. And what else is it that I do? I'm taking a break from doctorate school, but I am a doctoral student and focusing on getting lifestyle medicine certified.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Keeping it going, tell us how you're moving nowadays, what you're doing to be outdoors and how you are like being in the space, whether consuming, influencing, things of that nature.
Yeah. This is my favorite time of year. I'm a summer lover. I love summertime. I'm a Leo, so I have to be out in the sun all of the time. This is really like my thriving time of year. I feel like summer for me equals freedom, just because I really, I like to wear dresses. I like to go barefoot. I like to sit in the sun. So this is like a really good time for me right now. So I'm moving. I've been doing a lot of walking. I still run. We're doing Pilates. I teach Pilates. Doing a little bit more stretching and yoga and things like that outside. And then preparing for the Rachel Carson.
Nice. Tell us a little more about the Rachel Carson.
Yeah.
It's like no small feat. So I want you to like flex here.
Yeah.
And tell us about the race and what it means to you.
I have to say, I've never done anything like this before. I started getting into trail running about a year ago. My running partner, Melissa, shout out Melissa, she loves this stuff. And so she was like, let's do something different. And so I was like, I'm up for whatever. So we were going to do cross country skiing, but we had a warm winter. So we never got around to cross country skiing. And so we broached, let's do trail running. And so we met in Frick. And it was honestly like the first time I'd ever run in the trails ever. And I had like the wrong shoes and everything. And so, over a couple times I got the shoes and I got like used to being out there and in the trails you take smaller steps, but I like didn't listen to music. I listened to music on the road, but not in the trail. So we signed up for this trail run in October. I don't know, maybe you've heard of it. It's in North Park, the North Park Trail Runners. Yeah, those guys.
Yeah.
So they did like a Halloween one, and it was really fun. It was 8.1 miles. I was like, easy, we got this, right? It was so hard. I tripped, I fell, like I did a barrel roll. It was crazy. And at the end of it, I was like, that was so much fun.
Yeah.
And so we kept running and doing trails. And then she was like, hey, there's this Rachel Carson trail. It starts at North Park. We did that already. I was like, okay, sure. And she's like, it's a 50K. I was like, well, yeah, I don't do math. Tell me what is that? And she's like, it's 30 miles, right?
Yep.
But then it's actually 36.6 miles. So this Rachel Carson is like one of the toughest trail runs or races that like across the state. So it starts really far up north, up Harrison Hills, and then we travel to that peak all the way across, and we finish in North Park. So lately we've been training. So we came off the Pittsburgh Marathon, which is one of my favorites. We came off that and we went immediately into training for this trail. So we start in different parts of the trail. So we started first in North Park and we did, I think like 8 or 9 miles out there on the Rachel Carson Trail.
Okay.
And then the following week, we started at the beginning of where the trail was. So we did 13, 14 miles that day. It took 4.5 hours.
Okay.
And then last weekend, we went and did the middle. We dropped in the middle and we went three out, 4 out, and then 4 back. Like we got like 7 or 8 miles. So we've been training on this. And I come home, like I get in my car, I'm really sticky. It's like dirty. There's like bugs like that's like came directly into my neck and got stuck there. So I'm like wiping bugs off. And I'm thinking, this is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, other than having children naturally. Like, I kid you not, physically, this is the biggest challenge of my life.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been so awesome. It's been transformational. It's been great.
I love that. And I certainly want to get back to that at some point in time throughout our brief time here.
Yeah.
But where did this all like start for you? You know, like being outdoors, running, curiosity, like where did this all begin for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would actually ask you the same thing too, because it's different. I feel like growing up in the city,
Yeah.
it's not like let's go hiking. I don't know. For me, it wasn't that way. This is a totally new vibe for me, and I feel like the older I get, the more I'm appreciative of it. Guess I started distance running in my late 20s. I was training for a race in Florida. I was training for a full marathon in Florida.
Okay.
Um, and then since then, I've just found it so like magically like enlightening and just it's good to be out there. It's good to watch other people. It's good to feel like a transformation happening with the distance running in particular. I feel like I learned a lot about myself during this period of time. So I'm really drawn to getting up every day, going outside, and then just like being a part of the air and the nature. Even like I'm an all year runner. You and I had a
Oh, yeah.
conversation a while ago about running outdoors in the winter, and you were like, I don't do it, and now
Everyone knows
I was
that.
like,
Everyone knows that.
yes, I
Yeah.
know. And I was like, Derek, you have to go outside in the winter.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I run outside in the winter too. Yeah.
Like I'm just like you can't catch me like running outside. I do like all kinds of like winter outdoor recreation sports,
Yeah.
like skiing and all of the things surrounding that. I will like spend time walking outdoors with even with like my dog, who loves being outdoors. We both are Bernie's mountain dog dads, so they love the
Nice.
winter. So I love being out there, but like running,
Yeah.
especially in Pittsburgh specifically.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the idea of slipping. You know, that gives me like that like makes me feel uneasy just thinking about slipping right now.
Yeah. It's happened.
And that's just like that's where I cut it off.
Yeah.
You know? But I'm also not afraid to spend time on a treadmill either. So I'm like cool with that as well.
Yeah. You do love a treadmill.
I do.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
do. I
Yeah.
do indeed. But to answer your question, like throwing it back to us, and Marcus has a different experience as well with like what led him to being outdoors and things of that nature. But for me, like specifically through the lens of like running, like what made me start running was so unique, which I also picked up like the sport of running and like being an active like participant in the industry as like a mover and shaker and things of that nature in college. Like I always ran, and everyone's hopefully heard my episode as to like where that started for me. Like movement was always like something that we did all the time. And for me specifically, it was always running to my grandparents' house, but I never like put that together with like sport or anything of that nature. But what led me to being running in like the industry and like more formally in sport and things of that nature, I did like track and field in high school, but in college is where it like really started to spark for me. My wife and I would run together. We would be active together, and being on the campus of Western Carolina was just like incredible. Like it's just beautiful all the time. So I would
Right.
want to run there all the time. So we would have like a local 5K in which we ran together, which was like the first time my wife and I had ran an event together, and that kind of like sparked it for me of like, oh, this 5K is cool.
Yeah.
Of course, not many people looked like me at the start line, but it was like something that I found to be like exciting, you know, to me, that like spurred energy that I wanted to spend elsewhere and do it again and again and again kind of thing, which led to me doing just that.
Yeah.
So that is where I started in terms of running in events, which is different than how I like consume running my neighborhood and things of that nature. But more largely, that's where it started for me. And I know you have the story of like where you started in terms of like outdoor recreation and being
Yeah.
curious more largely.
Yeah, I mean, I would say outdoor recreation for me is just familial experiences. Like, I don't think I was, and I still don't, I don't really identify as a runner in any fashion. You know, like I do workouts and
things of that sort. But to me, I just don't connect with that space from an identity perspective. You know, it just wasn't instilled with me in me individually. But I don't think it's too late for me to identify or like try to connect with people in that space. It's just not a realm that I have enough time to like fully dive into, unfortunately. But the experiences that I've had with Derek and our grandfather have just transcended my life. Like
Yeah,
that's,
totally.
I mean, I referenced it with you. It's just like, I know what I'm here to do, what my purpose is, and I'm going to continue to pursue that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but
That's
also
awesome.
like, and I'd say this because you just said it, and it always kind of like triggers me every time when someone says like I'm not a runner, or like, because I think I, even from an identity standpoint, I don't call myself a runner. Like when I tell people about me, I'm not like I'm a runner. You know, that never comes up in conversation with me, which I find to be like so interesting because we all know people that like strongly and clearly identify as like I'm a runner. But I always ask people like, what does that mean? You know, like what is, if I say I'm a runner and it doesn't look or match up with like what you perceive that to be, like, do you question me being a runner, and things of that nature. So I don't like, even there, like our relationship in moving and running looks totally different. But even from an identity standpoint, that's like the last thing I tell people about me. Nor do I identify in that kind of way. I don't know if you do in that same way, or if you don't, that's great too.
That's
But
really
identity is so
interesting.
complex,
It
you
is
know?
very complex. It really is. There was this thought I had about identity and like roles, like what roles do you have? I feel that I think later on in my life, I've used running as a tool for influence, and I think earlier in my running, it was like a tool for me to like cope and heal with a lot of things, and it really forced me out of my comfort zone. Because you know I never identified as a runner at all. I mean I teach fitness. I've taught fitness since I was 18 years old, 19. I was a tennis player. I was all these things, but like running was so foreign to me. But recently, the last decade or so, I would say people say like, oh, you run, right? I'm like, yeah, I run. I run sometimes. Like, no, you run like marathons and like all those things. And I'm like, yeah, I do, but I also do other things. Yeah. Because you're right. There is like the stereotypical like runner. I don't look like that at all. I'm not very tall.
We were just talking about this
more
today.
muscular, yeah, than most average female runners. Also a person of color. So that's, and I'm not a sprinter, which, So, yeah. Even though, oddly enough, when I ran track in high school, I sprinted. I ran the 4, the 2, and I was like, why am I doing these things? I'm so bad at them.
That's funny.
Yeah, I got into cross country much later, just from coaching my daughter's team. But even then, I was like, okay, this is interesting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, I think, like, personally, I've been on this journey to, like, identify and to be able to articulate what I am and what I am not, as it pertains to, like, identity. And you were just talking about The Alchemist, which, like, is a lot rooted in a lot of that thing as we were just talking about what we're doing and reading and things of that nature. And things such as running and, like, being a runner or doing this, like, are the first things that kind of slip that list, and you even kind of identified as well, the things from your own words, like what you are, like a mother, like I'm carrying, like in all the things that you just articulated and alluded to. So I find that just to be so like complex, but like so empowering as well for people to be able to do that, and identify like who and how they want to be seen within that space as well. Spinning this forward a little bit, Erica, like, were there prominent moments in your running journey or just like outdoor journey, period, like what you're doing that has reaffirmed or affirmed, perhaps for the first time. Some of the things in which you've mentioned of like who you are and how you want to be seen.
Yeah, totally. I never really talk about the early days of my running because it's really personal. But I started running when I started running the distances in my late 20s, so like 25, 27. And I started running them because I was married before in my 20s because that's smart. And my husband at the time was really into outdoors. He mountain biked, he went to California and did Big Bear and did all these things and like loved those things. And I was like, yeah, that stuff is cool. And I was, but then I started the distance running and stuff like that. Well, he like fell into addiction and he died. And we were 27. And so that was when I was training for this full marathon in Sarasota, Florida. And he died like 3 weeks before this marathon. I was out running. I did my 20 miles and it's hot. This race was in March. I did it and I got home super pumped, super stoked. And then I got the phone call that he passed. And it was almost like I lost, it was like whoever it was that walked in that door after that 20 miles was not there. Like it was wild. And so he passed and I thought I had to bury and do all the things as a spouse. And I thought, oh shit, I have a marathon. I was doing a full marathon.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can do this. I haven't eaten. I'm not hydrated. I'm in major grief and loss. Like I also hadn't run, right? So after everything was like completed, my running partner at the time, her name was Julie, and she was like, you know what? I think you should just do it. I was like, I don't know if I can run 26 miles.
Yeah.
It's been a minute. And she was like, just do the half. And I was like, okay. So like I got up at like 4 in the morning and I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I don't think I ate anything. I lost like a significant amount of weight during that like period of time. And I was running. And so in Sarasota, there's this really big bridge that crosses over to St. Marco, whatever. It crosses over. And that's like really the hill in this race, right? I was like, listen, I'm from Pittsburgh, okay? This is not a hill.
This is a mound.
This is, right? I was like, easy peasy. So I'm like running over it. And this was like a time I didn't run with any music or anything. So it was just like, I was like jogging. And then all of a sudden, the sun was rising. So it was like, I was running over this bridge. Under it was the ocean. And it was like the sun in one area. And then it was like light, like glimmering through the clouds. And I paused and I was like, oh my God, that's him. And he was like pushing me. So like the spirit like of my, former husband was like there.
Yeah.
He pushed me through that finish line. It was like the craziest, like most memorable moment I've ever had in my life. And so after that, I was like, I've got to run. And so he died February 17th, 2007. And so I moved back to Pittsburgh and got my life together. And then I ran Erie, the full Erie in September. And I was like, I'm going to do another one. And I just started running and running and running. And every time it was like, I felt like a push to continue. And so I kind of made it almost like a mission, like a circle of like passion to like run for Joe. But in turn, it was like helping me like heal and like cope. And so now when I talk about running, I talk about how it really changes the mindset and it changes like your entire emotional well-being. So I use that as an addictions therapist to like give back so that like he didn't die in vain.
Yeah.
And so I spent a lot of time outside.
That's incredible.
with that. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
my running story.
Yeah.
I never talk about it though.
Well, I'm glad you could talk about it here. That's
Yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, I'm like teary, but it's like not
Yeah.
sad teary. He's been gone for 16 years, so.
And like I've alluded to this, like every time I talk about running, especially on the podcast, I'm like, you should see people at the finish line. It's incredible.
Yeah.
But it's moments like that, and it's like experiences like that people carry with them through from the start all the way through the finish, to where even like mid-course you just see people, like, because it's real at that moment, just as you've alluded to and articulated, of like feeling like there was like a force there, that was like moving you through the finish line. And that is like the true beauty and power of movement, just to feel like connection, and to feel things that, like, admittedly I cannot articulate. Like there's some moments in which I'm running, I'm just like, I don't know what's happening. Like I can't explain this reasonably as to like what's happening, but it's happening. And that's incredible that you've experienced things of like that power, and the ways in which you're like giving it back, and like perhaps influencing the things that you're doing now, but also like the things that are to come as well. So that is incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think people really underestimate the power of movement.
Agreed.
I really do. Because it's like, it's just such a cathartic experience.
Yeah.
It really is. And as a mental health professional, I tell, like, my patients ask me, what can I do? What can I do? I say, did you move your body?
Yeah.
Did you hydrate your body? And they're like, no. I'm like, just try it.
Yeah.
Just try it, like, for a week. And they do, and they're like, I feel great, and things like that. So I don't have like a particular, I never give advice. That's not my role. My role is to mentor and give suggestions, and to have individuals like figure out what works for them. If it's not going to work for you, you're not going to do it. So I lead by example, and I teach that with my kids too, because like if I'm having a bad day, I'll go out and run, or I'll go to yoga, or I'll teach Pilates, which is where I feel mostly like myself.
Yeah.
As you witnessed me teaching, I feel most like myself in front of
incredible.
people.
Yeah. And I love it.
Yeah, I'm
For sure.
not afraid of public speaking at all. It's the number one fear of most Americans, and I do not have it.
You're a fortunate one. I do want to like go back and just say thank you, for sharing, your story as like raw and as unfiltered as it is, because it's not easy, period, to be authentic and share, things about you, that, especially things that are impactful. So on behalf of both of us, just thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And just being brave, within that space. Thanks. to tell your story as authentically as you can. Because I like, admittedly, there's other people that are experiencing what you experienced, or may experience, unfortunately, what you experienced as well. But to hear that from you, that there is like power and possibility, in serving as an inspiration for that, I just want to say like thank you for doing that.
Thanks, Derek.
Because we all face our unique challenges, but there's like power in like having someone say like, here's what I've gone through, and you can do it. So like, so kudos and thank you. I'm just like so grateful for you like sharing your own story, for admittedly in your own words. It's like the reason that we do what we do, and we set these spaces such as we do. You talked about talking and learning. Like, tell us a little bit about what you're learning and teaching now, whether recreation or just like life lessons. This is like opportunities for you to give like gems to us.
Yeah.
So take it as you would like.
Yeah. I have been learning about the power of silence and sitting still. It has been incredible. I am a mindfulness practitioner. I teach mindfulness to my patients. I've been living in it. And learning to accept things that are not in my control and just kind of like let things flow. And I feel like as a woman in my 40s, I've been a widow, I've been divorced, like I've got almost teenager. I roll with it a lot more than I used to. And when I have moments of quiet and silence, I feel like I can actually connect with myself and breathe. And so I've been doing that a lot, like with listening, like as a clinician, it's important to listen. But I feel being in the present moment and listening has been something it's taught me a lot about what people are actually really saying. So that's really what I've been learning about these days.
And I'm sure hand in hand, like teaching that to others as well, throughout that space. Like, you mentioned like a relationship between movement and that presence that you kind of just mentioned as well. Are there like ways in which you're teaching people to apply those two things of like silence and being still and being present at an intersection of being outdoors or movement, or like frankly just sitting outdoors as well? Like,
Yeah.
is there like a relationship there, or is that something that you're prescribing to people?
I am prescribing it a little bit, I would say, especially the sitting and the stillness part. This is like, I don't know if this is what you're looking for, but I have been guiding my daughter, my tween, to just be in the present moment and go outside. So she'll come, teenagers, I'm bored, there's no food here, you're mean, like typical things like that. And I'm like, have you gone outside today? You know, I tell them every day, what's the most important thing when you wake up in the morning? And they're like, hydration. I'm like, absolutely. And I was like, well, what's the second thing? They were like, I'm so bored. What's that mean? Like, boredom is a choice. Like, so when your mom's a therapist, this is what you get. So the most important thing with like my daughter Violet is she's been going outside and she's been sitting in the sun and like getting sunlight like just draped all over her body and just like absorbing it and coming in and being like, I feel really great. I'm like, absolutely. You're not moving. You're not on your phone for 5 minutes. You're just being still and in the moment. And so I really, from a home-based perspective, it starts here. So I've really just been emphasizing that and just leading by example with, by doing that with both of my kids. My son in particular, he's very sound particular. And so he, like music for him, he likes music, but music for him, he'd rather sit and like be quiet, you know, with me or like have a conversation. And I'm like, I love this about you. This is neat. And I transfer that into like my Pilates classes where I don't teach with music until the very end when we close. I focus on the breath and having people just sit with what their body is telling them. If we don't listen to our bodies, how are we ever going to make any changes? Yeah. So I really emphasize that a lot. And then with the running and the moving, just with being in the woods and the hiking and stuff, you know, we talk, like me and my partner, Melissa, we'll talk or we'll go for like yards and yards without talking. And I just listen to like sounds. I'm like, what is that animal? You know, like it's new for me. So I'm like, what is that? Is it a squirrel? Is it a fox? But it's been a really like wonderful influence in my life.
Nice.
It allows me to really, I think of like really interesting things when we're out there. Last weekend, for example, we were out there and we were like, the part of the trail we dropped was, that we dropped on to hike, was hilly vertical and treacherous and things like that. And I caught up with Melissa and I was like, I just had a really random thought. And she's like, what? I was like, can you believe like people that escaped slavery did this in the dark without hiking poles or water packs? And she was like, I know. And I was like, this is where my brain is going right now.
It's like you have the freedom to like wander mentally within spaces of movement and things of that nature. So yeah.
Yeah. Just wild. So it's been great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I want to like jump back to, which is like a segue to Rachel Carson.
Yes.
And that particular event, like, what was the catalyst around, like you mentioned, like you had never done anything like that before.
Yeah.
Like, what was the catalyst of like, yep, I'll do it? Was it just like curiosity? Was there like something that led you to say yes, or like to
Yeah.
explore to do that?
Yeah. That's a great question. It's my intention to explore my limitations, honestly, because like I said, it's the most challenging physical thing I've done since, other than giving childbirth. Yeah, for sure. So I like push myself to the boundaries. And with hiking, the way we're doing it, we have to keep a certain time in order to finish in 15 hours. So we're keeping like a very swift pace and jogging in between, and there's no stopping. There's no stopping. So in like trail distance running, there's the concept of the pain cave. And so you go to the pain cave, and I'm like, I live in the cave. My cave has drapes and a painting and water and a pizza. Like I just go there and just live in the pain cave, and it just pushes me. But it's about challenging my limitations. I needed something. I needed a change. I needed something spark in my life, and this is it.
Okay.
Yeah, I love it. It's great.
Good. Well, best of luck coming a week out. So
It's next Saturday.
not if you needed a reminder, but a week away, coming soon.
Next Saturday. What do you have coming up? Anything?
For me, coming up, I'm going to run Great Race.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
going to run 10 miler. I'm also going to run the 10K in Phoenix, Lulu Tour, as we mentioned as well. That's what's on the docket for me over the interim, like the short term here at this stage. So it's like race season. Weather's
race
great, so
season.
it's like the time is now to take on those things and to get out and start moving. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait. I love fall. Fall running is my favorite running season. It's just a good like bridge between like summer and winter. Remember last year, the 10 miler, it was like brutally hot. I think you like were quickly like
I loved it.
sprinting past me, and I'm like dying. It was so.
The North Carolinian in me was like, "This is
You're like,
perfect.
I love this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is perfect.
Yeah.
I loved it. Yeah, it was good.
It was.
It was
great.
warm for November, but it was good.
I loved it. It was a great time.
Yeah, agreed. Well, I mean, as we wrap, I mean, we're right at time here. Any shout outs you want to give, Erica, as we wrap up?
Yeah, I love shout outs.
Fast and Furious.
Yeah, definitely gonna shout out to my running partner Melissa. Without her, like we're like this. She's great. She's a really great influence and a great friend and a great mom. Richard Butler, obviously, my mentor, my coach, my friend. We talked about April earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The OG.
Definitely. Shout out to my kids.
Yeah.
For sure. They secretly think I'm cool, but like when they see their friends, they're like, "That's just my mom."
That's
like,
all kids do.
Doesn't your mom do this and this? And they're like, "Yes." I'm like, "Oh, okay."
Nice.
Okay.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. It's been really fun.
For sure. Yeah.
been a
Thanks
beautiful day.
for being on the cast as well. It's been fun spending time with you. As always.
Yeah. It's
being
nice
out
to
and
spend
moving.
time with you, not sweating.
I know. Yeah. Right. Yeah. For sure. Agreed. Yeah.
And
Today was fun.
dress, It's great.
To be out at Frick Park, another just staple of of Pittsburgh, I would say, Frick Park, and the amenity that it is to be out there running and moving for yet another time. It's always great to be out there. For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thanks for the time. Another great episode. We'll catch you on the next one.
Next one. Yeah.